this is the definition section of the interview with
Okay.
Steven Asherman. I'm going to give you, a short definition, and you're going to give me a short answer if possible. Okay, so the first one I'm going to give you is Guerrilla Shape.
Ah, Guerrilla Shape. That's a good subject. So Guerrilla Shape has to do with being rounded, no corners. And what that does is it has to do with your relationship with gravity, which Tai Chi is kind of a study of your relationship with gravity. So what roundedness does, instead of like an angle here at your shoulder, for instance, having this smooth arc and round shape, same thing here, it's not straight, slightly bent in the form. And also I think in punching, what it does is it allows the power to go from the point of contact down to the ground. And every action, I mean, now we're talking physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so when you're striking or pushing, whatever force you're putting out is coming back at you. And so it needs to be sent to the ground. And that means that there can't be any oddball shapes. And if you look at a gorilla, the way they stand, like sort of like that, right?
Right, the shape that I need to have to get out of your chokeholds.
Right, there we go.
Oh yeah. There's the Steven Asherman puzzles that I would have to solve that I would maybe get out of maybe 10% of the time.
I think I've gotten pretty good at it.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But we keep coming up with new ones.
Awesome. Okay, so what about this one? What about this one? Eye movement.
Eye movement. So the martial arts way of looking is to have this broad gaze. And when you turn, so it was interesting, one of the Chen Man-Ching videos, he talks about it. In some martial arts, you turn your head. You don't turn your head in Tai Chi. You turn everything, right? And your gaze stays forward. And you're looking to the side. And of course, if you like Alex and his
Right.
hearing,
See behind with your ears. Yeah.
So under stress, what happens is called tunnel vision. So under stress, in fact, your vision becomes very focused. And if you're not careful, you don't see anything else that's going on around you. So you're training to have an open gaze. And that means if you're following Williams' way of punching, for instance, then you're a little this way. So if we're going to do it right, I'm looking there. And then as I punch and my body's turned, I'm looking there. So the target is out of the corner of my eye. If I do that, or as Master Chen says, if you do that, you have to be a master. Otherwise, you'll stop your power. So if you're not a master, then as you turn, you have to make sure you gaze in the direction that you're pointing and not in the direction that you're striking. It's all about keeping this very wide gaze and preventing yourself from being easily suckered. So let's just talk about some of the sucker moves. Some people have very strong gazes, right? You look in their eyes and you're already in trouble. Some martial artists are like that. Some very dangerous people are like that. They dominate you with your eyes. So Well, if you're looking straight ahead, you're not looking into their eyes, right? You're looking more towards their chin, according to William. And I think that's part of becoming aware of what you're doing with your gaze. And of course, the whole form, you're practicing that gaze.
Hmm.
You are looking straight ahead, but aware of your surroundings.
Peripheral as opposed to you sometimes would make the comparison in my classes with you or in the group classes about um, the vision of the hunter when he's waiting for the
Right.
prey to go across the horizon.
So let's just talk about that for a second. So there's the whole issue of what kind of receptors are you using in your eye? So hunting animals tend to have not much in the way of color vision. They tend to have rods. The cones are shaped like this, and they see color vision. They're also very good for certain kind of high accuracy like reading. So the central part of your vision is dominated by cones. The periphery is dominated by rods. Rods are much better because they're stacked together close. They're much better at detecting motion. So hunters, for instance, if they're looking a few hundred yards away and they want to see, I used to go hunting woodchucks. You want to see a woodchuck on a stone wall a few hundred yards away. You don't want to be looking straight at it. You want to actually see it as a little bit of movement in the peripheral vision, right? And it's really the same thing in general in martial arts. And that's why you're not focused on your target when you're striking. So what William says is basically your mind knows where your target is. Your mind, there's a screen back there, and your mind knows where the target is. You don't have to keep looking at it. And now you have the advantage by focusing in that way of seeing little peripheral signs of motion. And one of the most important ways of getting suckered, you can see it on YouTube, is somebody's looking straight in your face and talking a lot of baloney, right? But you're going to get punched by the guy standing next to him,
Yeah.
right? Standing to the side. And your focus has been taken away. Your cones are looking at it. And actually, if you're reasonably well trained, your rods may save you as suddenly seeing there's something going on there. But basically, it has to do with understanding you're perceiving motion. That's and you are not trying to stare at a target. And as things happen faster and faster, you can't stare at the target. It makes you stiff, and it stops your body from being relaxed and moving freely.
Right. So that actually answered a lot of okay. So here's another one for you. Citizen soldier. Citizen
Okay.
soldier.
Citizen soldier. That's a very good question. So I sort of look at martial arts. We're martial artists. Excuse me, we're not warriors, right? There is a difference. Martial art is studying the art of war, right? I don't want to be a warrior. Being a warrior is something that you personally think you should have to be forced into by circumstance. Of course, some people, it's in their guts and they are warriors, and that's all there is to it. So the ancient peoples kind of came up with several different ways of organizing themselves. So if you look at the Spartans, who were maintaining a slave population that was 9 times their own population, everyone was a soldier. So everyone was a professional warrior. And then if you look, so that's the Spartans. Then if you look at the Athenians didn't have a professional army. And everybody was most definitely not a warrior. But everybody practiced because every so often you needed everybody to be on the front line, and you need to be able to coordinate these weird things that they used to do, with their shields and all marching together and
Phalanx, or whatever they call that. Yeah.
right. And that whole way of operating is sort of the citizen soldier way of operating. And then finally, if you look at the Romans, you end up with the modern look, which is the notion of a professional soldier. And so we live in the time where, warriors are professionals. On the other hand, the notion of a citizen soldier is that everybody should maintain some martial arts training, and in an emergency, be capable of contributing to the defense of society. And I think that is kind of like what they call them, weekend warriors, as being part of the civil defense.
Uh-huh.
But I think that the basic notion that I could own a shop, in Athens, but nevertheless, there would still be regular training that needed to be done. And every so often they would call you out through no fault of your own, and you would have to actually be competent. And of course, as you get older, then people start to look to you to help train the people who are younger, and to have some, basic sense of, military type maneuvers and all of that. But I think it's important. And Mario said it himself. This is not fighting. Right? It was interesting when we talked about that video. This is not fighting. Please do not mistake yourself for a warrior because you study martial arts. And I think that's fundamentally a good thing. I'm fundamentally nonviolent, and I wish no one harm. And so the basic self-defense way of looking at things, I think, is one of the alternatives for martial arts. There is the competitive sports mono dueling way of looking at martial arts, and that is pretty much the dominant one right now. Then there is the self-defense, multiple attackers, avoiding ambush form of martial arts. And that's what William taught, and that's what I was interested in. And then there are a couple other kinds of important martial arts, just not to forget. There is the assassin form of martial arts, right? Where the object is to kill without being seen. That's being a sharpshooter, that's being, behind the lines assassin type.
Yeah.
And then there's
Step up to the 7 stars with a little knife in your hand.
right. And then there well, I mean, basically, people who practice sneaking up on a high value target in the military are that kind of, or in Secret Service. And then there is the police bouncer form of martial arts, where the object is to subdue with minimum damage. Those are four, in some ways, there's lots of overlap, but those are four really different ways of looking at martial arts. And I think the citizen soldier form of training is a little more of the self-defense, avoiding ambush, as opposed to the assassin, which is how to create a good ambush, right? We don't train to create good ambushes, to have overwhelming odds on our side with surprise. That's more of a military slant. So, but I think it's worth keeping that in mind, because you sometimes find people arguing about martial arts and this technique or that technique, and I think it's helpful to try to understand where you're coming from and where they're coming from among those four categories.
I think it actually ties into the result of my study as a student of William Chen, because I remember one of the things that he said to me when I first came in was whatever you do, Tai Chi is going to make it better. So he's not trying to um, say that his method is superior to anybody else's method.
Um, well, you can see his school, you could say, has two different slants, maybe a little bit of, so one is very much, sort of Max is very competitive, and Williams, very competitive, man a man, pretty well matched, with a referee, with some generally understood rules.
Uh-huh.
But that's not really where he started from. He definitely started from more of the self-defense. There are no rules, there's no referee, it's not fair, and you're outnumbered. And then there is a little bit of the subduing with minimal force
Okay.
aspect of police work and bouncing kind of, bouncing bodyguard kind of work, where you are trying to, you're trying to use minimum violence. And I think William is saying all of them make you better. Tai Chi, whatever your slant is, Tai Chi will make you better at that. But Tai Chi will make you better at everything.
Right. That's the other thing I was going to say. It certainly made me a better musician, and it certainly made me a better uh, person in dealing with relationships, my personal relationships and my relationships as a teacher. Uh, uh, as a chess player, I'm a better chess player now because of, and I'll attribute that directly to Tai Chi. The peripheral benefits of practicing the form. Okay, so
I think I'm a better businessman because of Tai Chi.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
Softness overcoming hardness there is an important principle.
Yes, yes.
Because, yeah, for obvious reasons.
Especially now, in here we are in a very interesting time of history where it's overwhelming, the adjustments that we've had to make. And I could go on and on about that. But one of the things I want to get you in the definition section, Stephen, is things that are related to the punch. So I'm going to give you a little short definition here, and you're going to answer it for me. Pick the lint.
Pick
the lint.
Okay, so this is a really important issue, which is how can you really move fast, right? And Tai Chi has, it's interesting. It's this whole issue of learning to move very slow in order to be able to move very fast. So picking the lint has to do with the part that has to do with focusing on the fingers and just getting there, right? So if you pick the lint off somebody's shirt, right, you're not thinking about, oh, how can I hit them as hard as I can? That makes you think of your body turning and your arm turning.
Muscle.
And that makes you think of using tension, right? Because the muscle is not just in one direction. You're going to use muscle no matter what, right? I understand, William, it is no muscle, but you're going to use muscle no matter what. The issue is really to let your brain turn off those muscles that need to be turned off, turn on those that need to be turned on, tighten and loosen tendons and ligaments appropriately, and the covering of the muscles. If you think about those things, you will screw it up. So instead, by thinking about where am I placing my fingers in, and this motion makes you think of William and his 3 fingers. And then all you have to do to gain the power you want is instead of picking the lint off of here, pick the lint off back there, right? Or William once said, just reach through their head and get their ponytail, right?
Awesome stuff. Okay, so here's one that I ask pretty much everybody. I'm going to ask you too, and you're going to give me a definition. Toes and fingers, push pull.
Um, so toes and fingers definitely has to do with the fact that all you should be thinking about, you should not try to improve your moves by messing around with your body. It just turns out, William is right. This is all natural. Your body knows the right shape to make. And it's turning on your toes, grabbing the ground, at the same time as deciding where your fingers are being placed. And everything else now comes back to this gorilla shape and having the right shape. But you have to deliberately, as you're doing the form, avoid thinking too much about anything in between, because your conscious brain is not going to improve the situation. Now, every so often he'll make a correction, like he'll say, so I saw one of Alex's videos, he was talking about the middle finger being connected to the stomach. And I
Yeah,
asked,
this is Alex's new thing. It's very, very cool stuff. I got him started on it. It's my fault.
so I was wondering about it. So I had a lesson with Master Chen, and so I asked him, and he said, and I said, well, Alex was pointing out how your finger goes down at the end.
Right, it connects with the gut brain.
And William's answer immediately was so interesting. He said, the reason that's happening is because you're relaxing here in order to bring the elbow up, right? That's what's happening. And so I kept saying, look, I've been doing this move
Yeah.
for forever, and I still feel like I don't know how to do it. So I wanted to spend about 10 minutes trying to work on that move. And that's when he said, well, here, what you really are doing is relaxing and opening up here. Right? So what he's really saying is, yes, you really are thinking about your fingers, but as part of that job, you're going to have to find all the spots in your body which are just automatically getting in your way and interfering with what is the natural way of doing it. And as soon as I started thinking about this, I saw, yeah, my finger went down, my elbow went up, and you can see when you do this like that, look at this sort of, now you can chop. So he was saying you chop and then you smash.
Awesome. Wow. This is so great. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I'm going to give you one more definition, and then I'm going to leave this part of it alone. And this is one that I do with everybody too. This one is fear, death.
Well, death is certainly a heavy topic, but I try not to. Let's start with that. I just think you're rejoining the universe and the illusion of separateness is over. So I don't know much more than that. Right? That's my sense of it. This is you sense yourself as being separate. That's a game of DNA, right? It's the game that makes DNA be the sense of separateness is necessary to play the chemistry game of life and evolution. Just an illusion. You rejoin the universe, and that's that. So I don't have too much.
So it sounds like you're with Alex. You only think we have one shot at it.
I think all of this sense that there's a you, even in that sentence, is all just part of the illusion of that's required for this interesting chemistry of evolution to work, right? I mean, it's just an illusion. So sorry for those who are looking for more than that.
One of the things that
inconceivable to me that anything else is true, actually, to tell you the truth.
But that being said, I do, in my discussions with Alex, mostly I come to understand that we do retain memories of where we came from in the way that we make these shapes and the way that the fingers connect to certain parts of the body you know, the gut maybe perhaps connecting
It's
to the
all
knee.
evolution.
Yeah.
There's just no question about it. There's evolution. And one of the most interesting things to realize is how much of this stuff is wired in. And so William's whole emphasis on being natural is really vital. He's not teaching you something that you don't already know. Your
Yeah.
body knows this stuff in the sense that when a giraffe is born, uh, within minutes, it's up and walking around, right? That's stuff is programmed in. And so we have all of this important stuff. I think the most important stuff that we have programmed in is the four-legged movement of our mammalian ancestors, right? We don't have too much of the reptile, right, left, although, no, he's right, reptile happened first, and we don't have too much of the fishy side to side stuff. But there's just no question, right? If you think about fingers and toes, and you think about a cat walking on sand or a cat climbing a tree, right? These are all the motions of punching, right? And all these things, they're wired in, they came from evolution, and they're too complicated. To me, the proof that they're too complicated is the birth of a horse or a giraffe and the incredible amount of what needs to be there for them to actually get up, as opposed to humans, again, who, as soon as they actually can do something, are back at this crawl stage where they're crawling like our four-legged ancestors.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that we are connected to all of those evolutionary stages.
Mm.
That's part of the magic of the DNA protein chemistry thing.
Yes. Yes. So what about your answer to the fear part of my definition?
Um, well, I think fear is an important motivator for most people who just are interested in martial arts. I mean, if you didn't want to get your ass kicked, and when I was a kid, I mean, I had gone to some reasonably rough schools, and I like crummy neighborhoods. So there was always the question of in effect, being ambushed. And I think then you really start to study that as you force yourself to do more dangerous things, kicking with people who are very good at kicking, boxing with people who can box, you know, anything that you do like that has got to create some fear, at least for most people. And learning to deal with it, the form is very useful. And the form has a spot in it that is about getting rid of thought and just doing, which is inherently about getting rid of fear as well. In order to go from preparation to action, there's something that happens in between. William calls it the pre-action. I actually call it quack, because it has to be so short, even in something as slow as the form. And I think it is true that part of what's happening there is you're just letting everything go, right? You're letting all of the muscular tension other than what's required to hold you up, the chi that's required to hold you up, which is a constant chi, in order to be able to generate this sudden move of one kind or another. Well, there is a moment in there where you have to give up thought, right? You're turning everything off so you can turn everything on. And that includes fear. You're just doing at that moment. And there's something about the training for doing that is very useful for the general problem of fear. And then the form itself, but also just plain, all these different exercises, they're all good for just kind of relaxing that. But the form has sort of this special place of helping put you in a zone where you start to see more of the warrior mentality, so I emphasized before how, please do not make the mistake of thinking you're a warrior just because you do push-ups.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is that you can't help it. If you're learning the basics of martial arts, you start to understand that to be a good martial artist, you start having to get to the point that the samurai talk about. Hey man, you're dead already. What are you worried about? And I think that's kind of helpful, right? I mean, you're exaggerating. The worst thing that can possibly happen is guaranteed, right? So get over it. Don't dwell on that. You're dead. And so I think that permeates martial arts in a way that's important. You're starting to learn how to be a warrior if you were stuck being one, right? We still hope you don't have to be one.
Awesome.
You're going to be afraid. I think if you're a real warrior, you're going to be afraid, right? You're just going to function never without it, and it's not going to dominate you, and it'll be real. In other words, part of the problem is a lot of fear is not real, right? You're afraid of, I mean, it's like going through all the things that can go wrong, right? That form of mental process is something that you have to break, because, oh man, you can come up with a long list of things that can go wrong, and really, it's like worrying about how you're going to die. There'll be only one way. Right? And so I think all of those things are connected and benefit your mental state from this practice.
Yeah. So basically my understanding of it is you're shutting off your mind so you can feel and do the form. That's one way to think about it.
I think this does come back to something that William's been into lately, which I've mentioned in class a few times, which is the sensory brain versus the motor brain.
Okay.
William calls it, I think, the mind versus the brain or something like that, but
Right,
it's sort of like he's talking about the same thing. Well, preparation of a move, you are moving it, you are collecting energy, you are moving into the best spot for doing whatever you have to do next. You're, in some sense, there's some thought involved, right? That's the sensory brain, taking things in, feeling the sensation in yourself, right, as to what gravity is doing to you, especially, and what's causing you to wind up in the right direction. And now you have to switch to the motor brain. Motor brain just does things, right? Go from here to there. Again, pick off the lint.
It's the lint, yeah.
It just does things.
It's such a great image.
So if you're just going to do things, you got to turn off, to some extent, all of this evaluation, sensation reception, and all of that. That's all been put into the equation. Now you're ready to do, right? And so that sense of I've got to turn something off, turn off the sensation of where I am, of understanding gravity and all of that. No, I'm in the spot where now I just have to do something, right? I have to do a physical action. And it's like Penfield, who was the neurologist or neurosurgeon who discovered, the map of the brain. You see it sometimes. I sent William something that he added to one of his articles. Well, if you stimulate some part of the brain, it'll cause your hand to move. If you stimulate other parts of your brain, it will cause you to feel, oh, it's heat over here. So that's the difference between the guy that just goes, well, when you touch it, you stimulate it, and the guy that goes, oh, they're really two distinct systems on both sides of the brain. One that sort of receives in and thinks a little, and the other one which is sending a wave of instructions to electrochemical instructions all along your whole body to do something. And that moment in between is needed. I asked William about this one also the other day, and he said, he calls it, you got to get rid of the static.
Right? Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So there's that moment where you're getting
all of
rid
those
of
attachments that are sitting on top of me while I'm doing the form, all the things that just that it you know, and this is the meditational aspect of the form for me. Getting rid of all of those distractions. You know, what am I going to do after I finish this? Instead of being in the moment with the movement.
Right, and there's a special place, right? So talk about PreAction. So there's, you know, preparation and action. There's this thing that William calls the PreAction, which I call quack, because the word PreAction takes too long. The word quack is even faster than
he's actually used that word in
well, I got it from him, and then I got it from
like
him.
The duck, you know, in the long form class, sometimes the Zoom class I take with him, he talks about quack.
Right. The reason that quack is even better than click is because it's even a little faster. If you do the quack right, just letting everything go and immediately doing the action, it feels like you're just bouncing into the next place. It feels like nothing. And if you notice that quack consists of now you're really letting everything go. There's some thought involved in, you know, winding down, right? And there's even a little bit of thought just going, although it's slow enough in the form where you're thinking about your fingers and maybe this and opening up here and all of that. But quack is really fast, and it's just release all those thoughts so that, or clear up the static so that you can now do the action.
Quack, quack. So maybe in addition to the Chihuahuas and some of the other animals, that there's going to be a duck T-shirt coming out for William Chen students to
quack. When I brought up quack the last time, he talked about the Chihuahua, and I said the reason I didn't think the Chihuahua was now he has a better. He told me about his new way of talking about it. I objected to the Chihuahua because no matter how much you don't want to crush it, you're still holding it, right? He's talking about the Chihuahua here. You're still holding the Chihuahua. So now he says, yes, you're right. There is that little bit of problem. He said, now my new way of talking about is that you get hollow.
Right, hollow the ribs, soften the pelvis.
Well, also the last time I talked to him, he said soften. And soften is better than relax. I really think that's a really important piece of the form. That relax has too much of the notion of limpness, right? Whereas softness is you know, something you have to do. You have to soften up. So when I talked to him a couple of months ago, he had talked about softening up over here.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him a few days ago, he was talking about hollow. He said, now instead of saying soften, I say hollow.
Hollow.
Which was an interesting.
He was saying hollow the ribs and hollow the arms because then it makes the arms float. He emphasized talking about the arms as well and releasing the tension you have in the arms. So focusing on the fingers and the toes, which was one of my other previous definitions.
Right. No, I think it's all, and I sort of think that his whole business about pour the coffee into the sink, putting in the ketchup on the hamburger. He has all these ways of trying to help you visualize moves that I think are really, they're part of his tremendous teaching repertoire.
Yeah, he's just it's in my understanding of it, it's the study of natural movement. It's like and he is so uh, uh, skilled and adept at expressing nature.
Russ, and part of our job when you're teaching somebody is all you're really trying to do is help them believe that their natural movement really is their best movement,
Yeah,
and everything they're adding is actually not helping. It's actually detracting, and so I think that's one of the reasons it's so hard. You tell, look, you know all this stuff. That's the thing. William is right. It's natural. Your body knows all this stuff. But now you have to start to realize how much you've been adding all along from your own cerebral impression that, oh, I
yeah.
need to do this and I need to, you don't even realize where the tension is. So I think Tai Chi is natural, but it's very hard to learn it from a video.
It's hard to learn from a video, and it takes patience, and it takes it takes time.
But it's well invested, and I think you get more. You just keep getting more and more benefit as you get older. I
Well,
think.
you and Alex and some of my other uh, uh, senior classmates are an example of that. You've made a lifetime study out of this, and it sounds like you're still learning. I mean, I
Absolutely.
don't intend to ever reach, the mountaintop, uh, but I'm certainly enjoying the path, and
And
this is this is
you'll
part
keep
of it.
you'll you'll keep learning from doing it, and after a while you kind of go, well, I don't understand why it took me so long to figure that obvious thing out.
Well, one of the things I tell my college age students at my classes at Berkeley, which are the main core of what I do now as a Tai Chi teacher, is I feel that a big part of my mission with them is to get them to enjoy doing it, because I know that if you start at that age, the early 20s, and you pursue it for a lifetime, they're going to be, if not invincible, certainly amazing practitioners by the time they get to be my age. So part of my goal is to inspire students, humans of that age, to embrace this internal art study.
I'm glad you're doing it. It's I think, of course, for musicians, it's great. And then it's just a natural. There's just a natural connection between Tai Chi and music.
Absolutely, Tai Chi is music.
And also there's the whole element of practice in music. So for a lot of, and there's also the element in music of going slow to get fast. And there's this
Yeah,
element of precision, right? That no, you can't just slop your way through your practice sessions. It's not like you just, I punch the clock, I check in, I do my hour of, practicing the bass, and now I'm done. If you go at it like that, you'll never get where you want to get to. So I think there's the same element in Tai Chi, martial arts in general, but
absolutely.
in Tai Chi of practice and precision. Of course, William is the ultimate in that. He's the most expensive Tai Chi teacher. And the only way you can do it is to go off and practice on your own. And that is, I think that's very deliberate on his part. He doesn't run a school run by his senior students who then, have people come in every day for, 4 classes a week until they get a belt kind of way of teaching.
Yeah.
And it's much it's much more, it's up to the person. And you very much see that people develop in the way that they practice. The emphasis is whatever they emphasize when their practice starts to become part of the personality of their style.
Yeah, and well, it's really great to do this interview. It's really I've learned so much from doing this, and everybody has a different spirit and certainly a different perspective, and yours is by no means no exception because of your lifetime of study of the martial arts and as a student of William Chen. I think it's great that I got you and I got you warmed up to the idea. Really
Well,
happy to have you.
thank you very much.
Yes, and just to reiterate, I may end up splitting this interview into two sections. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but just to reiterate, Steven Asherman is a martial arts Tai Chi master. He is also the web administrator of ContentGalaxy.com. That's spelled out the way I said it, ContentGalaxy.com, which is a great resource for study of the internal arts and many other things as well. So this is Tai Chi Salon. I'm Lincoln Goins with Steven Asherman, and I'm signing off for now.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Thank you. We'll do this again, Steven. Thank you.
Okay, mission accomplished.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.